Hey guys, and welcome to Crafts by Katelyn. If you're new here, my name is Katelyn and I love all things DIYing. If that's what you're into, crafting and cute home decor DIYs, hit that subscribe button so you can get more content. Also leave me a big thumbs up. For today's video, I'm actually wanting to recreate some of Kirkland's decor pieces. We are all stuck at home and we can't get out and purchase new decor for our homes. I know springtime is a perfect time to be purging old stuff. We declutter our homes and want to redecorate, but like I say, can't get out and see or even purchase all the new home decor pieces. So I wanted to get on Kirkland's and kind of see if we could dupe some items or be heavily inspired by, so that we could bring some of those gorgeous new trendy styles into our home. So let's go ahead and jump on into the video and see what I found at KIRKLANDS.com that I want to recreate. For the first DIY, I'm going to be making this really cute little modern farmhouse photo frame. I thought this was really nice and sleek looking. It was originally around $17 and I'm just going to be making it for about $3 out of these three main items for today's DIY. So I'm starting with two different size canvases. This is an 8x10 as well as a 4x6 little canvas, and then I'm going to be using one of those metal feathers that's on a stand. I haven't got to use one of these yet, so I'm excited to put it to good use, but I'm going to go ahead and cut the canvas off of these frames. I'm just using a utility knife. It just holds like a razor blade. I really recommend getting one of these because I use it all the time. Just be careful whenever you are cutting into that wood because it does feel like you have to apply a lot of pressure, so just be careful and don't slip and cut your finger. But the first thing I did was just remove all of that canvas, and then it does leave those staples in. I don't like to take the time to remove all of those staples. I just feel like it's a ton of work, so I just go ahead and cut the strings off of them, and then I just ignore the staples and just work around them because you aren't going to be able to see them. The original frame has like these two frames stacked together, so that's what I'm going to be trying to recreate, but I needed a wood backing, so I decided to use these jumbo popsicle sticks. I picked these up in a large pack from Walmart. I use them all the time. Highly recommend having them on hand for your craft stash. So I'm laying them out to see how many that I needed to cover the backing. I ended up using 6 of them, and then I just laid the frame in the center and went ahead and traced it because it needs to be exactly the size of the frame, so I will have a little bit that I can hot glue onto the back of the frame. After marking them and cutting them down, I'm just laying them all straight together, and then I'm going to hot glue the frame directly on these. These all are going to be white, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue them together before I paint because I feel like it's a lot easier just to paint one solid piece rather than going in and just painting each of these popsicle sticks and just worrying about messing up the paint. So just painting them all together, and then while the paint or the glue was still hot, I am shifting them around to make sure that they are really nice and straight. I did have a few that kind of were too long, so I did try to trim them down, but obviously that made some of them pop off, so I just went back and tacked them back in place. To give this some extra support, I'm just laying a couple of the same sticks sideways in the opposite direction and just gluing them down as well. Next, I'm just going ahead and painting this with some of my white chalk paint. I just go ahead and paint everything, this entire large frame as well as the smaller frame. You'll have to let me know what projects that you're working on right now during quarantine, if you're doing any large house projects. I know that we've kind of been making some storage space so we can clean out an area in our basement. I would love to set up some shelves down there to put more of my Dollar Tree stuff so I don't have to have it just all in tubs and piles where I can't really see it, but actually make me kind of like a cute little Dollar Tree store, I guess, down there. And I just think that sounds so fun to go down there and just try to pick out exactly what I need, and that way I quit overbuying and forget what I've purchased from Dollar Tree. But my next large project is going to be setting up our pool. We did order a pool just because I know we're going to be home most of the year and not getting to take our fun vacations like usual to the beach. We just bought like a nice size pool, just one that you set up above ground, but I'm so excited for it. I've been seeing some people on Pinterest make some really cute little setups and decorate around it with little palm trees and potted plants, so I cannot wait to get started on that. But let me know what projects that you have been working on. So the next thing I did was print off a photo just off of the printer. The only thing about this frame is it is kind of going to be a permanent frame. I wanted to put these Velcro little dots on there just so I didn't have to put hot glue on the back of this picture, because all I had was printer paper and I knew it would damage it or make it bubble up if I used any other kind of glue. So that's pretty much the only reason I used the Velcro. But if I pull this Velcro off, it is going to rip my picture because, like I say, it is just paper. So you might have to figure out a way to make this actually be able to change the picture in and out, but for now I was completely fine with it just being a permanent photo frame. Next, I'm going to be working on this little metal feather. I knew whenever I grabbed these that these would be perfect for some type of support or DIY, because you don't see a lot of like nice metal pieces like this at Dollar Tree. So I just thought this feather made the perfect support. And as you can see in the original photo of this frame, it has that perfect little black square with the metal stand. So I was just so excited to find this because it works so perfectly. So it does have more of metal looking pieces on there, and I just went ahead and painted some Jenga blocks so you wouldn't be able to tell they were wood. I painted them black, and I think the black and white is just so popular right now with modern farmhouse, and I think it is beautiful. I kind of steered away from the black decor for a while just because I was loving all the grays and the whites, but now I'm starting to really like it again. So I love like this classy farmhouse look. But to put this together, I just glued my wooden piece directly on that feather and then added a little piece at the bottom, and you weren't able to see the bottom of the feather, and then I added another little piece at the top, and I think this really does look like the photo. And I just found a random little bead because it does look like it has that metal ball at the top, and I went ahead and glued that before I painted it and then touched up what I needed to, and that is how this came together. I think it is so modern farmhouse, sleek looking. I think it looks so nice and a lot like the photo. So you'll have to let me know if you think that it was a really good dupe, or if you had any ideas for anybody else how that they could make the photo interchangeable. I'm so excited for this next DIY. I'm going to try to recreate this Kirkland's barnwood chalkboard. I think the painting on there looks so beautiful, so I'm going to try to recreate that. But I think it is such a nice, beautiful farmhouse piece that looks doable, but it looks like it's a large project. But don't get overwhelmed, because I'll show you how I put this together step by step, and I think it turned out perfect. And this was $85 compared to $5. So that is so awesome that we as creators can make this on a budget so that we can take our hard-earned money and put that towards like a larger piece. I would definitely take my $85 and put that towards a chair or something that I cannot DIY. So let's go ahead and get on into the craft. So I'm going to be using these two Easter signs, but I was really just going for those rectangle signs, and I start by piecing them together with my jumbo popsicle sticks, and then I'm going to go in with some of my nail filler and kind of fill in the cracks because I do want this to look like a solid piece. after letting I keep calling it wood filler, but I'm actually using spackle. I know I get questions about that, but I prefer using wood filler. This is just what I had on hand. But I just put that in all of the cracks and imperfections on the boards, and then went ahead and sand that down really smooth. And then I didn't want to waste all my chalk paint, so I wanted to give it a base coat with like my thinner acrylic paint. And I'll put all the paint colors down in the description down below, but this is just like a tan color. I think it's tutorial beige or something like that, and I'm just gonna really apply a few coats of this. So this is what the sign will kind of be soaking up, kind of like a primer, so I won't have to be using all of my hard to come by chalk paint right now on this project. But then I'm going to take some of my truffle paint, and I am going to try to make this as close to the photo as possible. I really want this to look like faux wood and like the barn wood picture. So I'm just taking my time, and I've sped this up for you all, but I am just packing on layers and layers and layers of dry brushing to get this look as realistic as possible. So I'm using my truffle brown paint, which is the dark brown paint, and just going the same direction up and down. Now mine won't be perfect. If you have a real piece of wood this size, feel free to go ahead and use that. So I will have seams, and you can kind of see where I use the spackle, but I'm going to be putting a chalkboard over the top of that so you won't see most of it. And then any other imperfections is just adding character and making it look more realistic by looking weathered. So I pile that truffle paint on, and then using some of the black, I'm going to push some of that in, as well as my lighter colored mineral color paint, which is like a light tan. And like I say, just really packing on all of the colors to make this look as realistic as possible. My favorite part after dry brushing, if you follow me any at all, you know this, is using sandpaper. I'm gonna die whenever the rustic look, whenever I'm over that, I won't even know how to craft, but I love distressing everything with sandpaper. I did accidentally sand a little bit too much over where I filled in those holes, so it does sand a lot easier there, but I think sanding adds so much texture in there and just makes it look so nice. I definitely recommend sanding in one direction, and it will just kind of scratch in lines in there, which makes it look a lot more real. So then I needed my lines on there to make this look like actual faux boards. So I love these large levels from Dollar Tree. I use them almost every project. They are so handy. And then I was using my Sharpie. I struggled a little bit. I don't know if it's because I had so much paint on there. My paint hadn't dried 100%, so I kind of struggled with the paint on there. So I would have used black paint in a paintbrush or used my other paint markers. But I think it was just because my paint was wet. And then to make this look more realistic, I'm adding the black around the edges. And if you brush them over the edges in one direction, I think it looks so good and weathered and more realistic. I know I've said the word realistic like 10 times in this segment, but I just love it. I think it looks so good. So then I needed the chalkboard, and I didn't have a perfect square. Yes, Dollar Tree sells square signs, and I tested them all and they were too large, so I knew I would just have to end up cutting my own. So I found a really thin sign, and I'm just going to measure and make it into as close as a perfect square as possible that I liked that would fit on my sign. And then signs are so easy to cut, especially if you have one of these utility knives that, like I say, I love using. I just score it or cut into it against my level, and then it will just like bend and break off very easily. And then what's left that's not perfect, you can just trim with scissors, and then I always end up sanding mine down. So I wanted this to be a chalkboard. I don't have any chalkboard paint on hand, so I just kind of had to make do with what I have. But I would definitely recommend that if you are going to go purchase the supplies to make this. So I'm just painting it with regular black paint. And then I have this really cool special Mod Podge that I purchased a while back that you're supposed to be able to paint over any type of paint, and it turns it into a chalkboard. So I picked mine up at Hobby Lobby. I definitely got it on sale. So it was only a few dollars. but it is a really cool product. I don't know if it worked perfect today, but I used it on top of chalk paint, so I don't know if that made a difference or what. Or it could have been I was actually not using real chalk, but like the chalk writer from Dollar Tree, but it seemed like I struggled to wipe it off, so I definitely just need to use real chalk and test that out on there, or just try to find me some real chalkboard black paint. So after that dried completely, you can see it fit perfectly on my sign, and then I'm using some of these paint sticks. You can pick these up very inexpensive for $1 from Walmart or Home Depot or anywhere. And this is going to be my opposite little wood pieces that is all over this sign. That's going to actually make it look like a little door. I am not great at cutting angles or anything like that, so the only way I can do that is just to lay it out exactly like I need and then just trace exactly where I need to cut. So these were so nice. These were a 3-pack, and so that worked perfect. I only had to use one of them. And then because the stir stick does change shapes at the top, I did have to kind of mess around with this to make sure that I was going to be able to cut off the slimmer part at the top where the handle is. But it worked out to be the perfect size. And then to trim these down, once again, I'm just cutting them with my knife, and then they easily break off. You can trim them down with scissors and sand them. And then for the one that is angled, because I wanted to try to get it as straight as possible, I did lay another stick down just to really guide my hand to make sure it was really straight, and that broke off really easy as well. And then I actually ended up getting to save the extra pieces to glue on the back of the sign so it wouldn't teeter-totter, but to make it a sturdy support. I wanted these little 3D pieces that are going to glue on the top to be coordinating, but to stick out. Like in the picture, they actually were like a light tan color, so that's kind of what I'm going for. I knew putting the truffle color underneath would make it go really nice and look natural with the barnwood, but then I'm using the mineral color to go over the top, and I did use sandpaper and then sanded off way too much, so I added some more paint on there. But I think these being so much lighter will just make them pop off and give this door so much more detail. And then they did dry a little bit darker, but I just love the color of them. I think they are gorgeous. I did try to lay them out exactly where they needed to go before I attempted to glue them down, because you do have to work with that middle piece to make sure it lies flat against the top and the bottom. And then here, like I say, I saved those extra little scraps to put on the opposite corners that weren't going to be glued down on that little middle piece, because I want this to be really solid, because you are going to be writing on it and putting pressure on it, so it just really needs to be a solid piece. The easy thing about distressed work is that you can go in and really easily blend in covering up imperfections. So I went back in with my truffle paint as well as some black paint and kind of smudged that all over, and you're not really able to tell. And then for the small little hooks at the bottom, like the one in the original photo, I'm using these Dollar Tree tiny little hooks, and I ended up just painting them black and then just removing the sticker and hot gluing them down. Whenever I originally started this project, I thought that I would make the pieces at the top that look like the barn door hanger and the actually little track that it goes on, but I decided not to. I just love the piece that I made, so I'm not going to put in the extra work to add that, but I wanted to give you an idea if you wanted to make this. I thought it would be really cool to use one of Dollar Tree's wooden garden stakes, or you could use the paint stick as well as 2 of these little wreath charms as the circles, and then you could use the little Jenga blocks if you painted all of that black, and that would really look like the track for it. And then you could connect those to the circles by either wire or popsicle sticks. So that was just an idea, but I love how it turns out as is, and I love it just being a rectangular shape to go with my decor better. I haven't got mine hung up yet, so I definitely want to, so I can add my keys and hang some cute little items from it. But I think this turned out adorable, and I am so happy with how the faux wood turned out. I think the painting looks perfect. next thing I'm going to be making is really inspired. I didn't make it exactly, but this Farmhouse galvanized wall organizer for $40. So I knew I could put this together for around $5. So let's go ahead and tackle this DIY. I'm starting with two 8x10 Dollar Tree picture frames, and I thought this one was perfect, but because it actually has the little detail in the center like in the photo. And I'm going to set those to the side, and then I really needed this to have some support because I know hot gluing two photo frames together seems really cheap and not really like a sturdy piece, and I want these to be nice quality. So I wanted to put this wood backing on there, or these Dollar Tree signs, so I measure out how large they need to be for each photo frame, and then using my level as a straight edge as well as my little utility knife again, I'm going to go ahead and cut these down to the size they need to be on both of them, and then I just break off the pieces that I don't need, and then like I say, come back in with some scissors and sandpaper and make that as smooth as possible. Now I'm just laying everything out. I decided in the original photo you could use one picture frame, but I wanted to double this up and make it like a larger nice piece. So instead of just putting both of them as photo holders or whatever you were supposed to put in the clip in the original photo, I wanted to add a little marker board. I thought about a chalkboard, but since I already done that on my barn door, I wanted to go with something different, and Dollar Tree has these little cardboard dry erase boards which work perfect. So I just set a frame on there, or the back of a frame, the insert of a frame, and I was able to cut this down to perfect size, and it will fit inside of the bottom frame. I do put it in there just to make sure that it's going to fit, but I do pull it back out so I can go spray paint this. Now this does have a few different little layers, so I am going to try to start piecing it together. I went ahead and glued the two photo frames together, and then applied hot glue to the back as well as some of my popsicle sticks, just to give it a little bit more support until I can get it all put together, because I will be packing this outside to paint with it. So using some more of my large popsicle sticks, I cut the rounded ends off and then placed them down, and this really does make a huge difference when trying to handle this project. So for the top frame, I needed it to be flat, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the metal clips that hold the backing in the frame, and then I'm just going to apply hot glue all around the side of this board, and make sure that you do the back of the board to the front to make sure that you won't have any of that weird glitter texture whenever you are painting over it. I'll personally definitely be going back in there and covering the back of this with some brown craft paper off camera later on, because it just bothers me that all that ugly beach glitter is all ripped and messed up back there. But I'm going to take this outside and spray paint it with some of this Rust-Oleum hammered colored paint. It did bother me after I got back in that you could see that hot glue, so I was trying to think about what I could do to put in between that gap, and I'm actually going to take that little trim that came off of the dry erase board, and it fit perfect there, leaned up against the side of the frame, so I just applied hot glue and at first just hoped that it stayed, and it actually ended up working out really nicely. So I just hot glued it as trim so that it would kind of conceal all of that hot glue back there and it wouldn't have any ugly gaps. After I got that ran all the way around the inside of the frame and tucked in really nicely, I'm adding one of these organizer baskets from Dollar Tree. I thought this fit perfect. It was the exact length that it needed to be. I would definitely recommend maybe running a piece of wire around the sides, and something that I might end up doing later, but I had already glued down my dry erase board, so it was difficult for me to add it, but it would secure it to the frame instead of just depending on the hot glue. But I'm just going to be putting some dry erase markers in here, maybe some little paper cards, so I'm not going to put anything heavy in there at all. And then because even though this is hammered spray paint, it is still really shiny, and I wanted more of the galvanized farmhouse looks, so I'm taking some of my elephant color chalk paint and just going to dry brush all over the edges and even some in the middle of that solid wood piece on the top of the frame, and I just think this really ups the look of it. I think it looks so nice and more like the photo. And then I wanted a little bit of that rusty look. In the original photo, it has a little bit of that brown rust color around the edges of the frame. So I'm taking a sponge brush and putting some burnt umber brown acrylic paint, and I just am kind of throwing it on there. And then if you take a dry brush, another sponge dry brush that doesn't have paint on it, and go over that, it gives it so much more of a nicer, softer look. And you can kind of remove paint from where you want to and smear it around, but it looks really nice and feathery. And I just really recommend doing that. So that's why I'm using both brushes there to kind of work with each other. So after I finished painting, I was able to go in and add my dry erase board back in there and just fold the prongs in, which held it in place really nicely, and then glued the second wood piece down. And this is going to give it so much more support and actually be like a solid backing. I have two of these little alligator clips. They come off of the Dollar Tree succulents that I had in my drawer left over from using the smaller little succulents, and I thought they were perfect. The photo actually just has one clip, but I thought it would be fun to actually make two, so I could put a little note on one side and then a little photo. And I love how those little Dollar Tree cardboard dry erase markers work so well, and it worked really good on this little photo frame. And then put together, I think this actually looks like a nice farmhouse galvanized organizer. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below if you really liked it and which one of these projects was your favorite. But I think it is so cute, and I think this hanging with the barnwood chalkboard would be so adorable. So I'm so excited to get me a little area set up. Fun putting this video together. I love duping or being inspired by certain stores. If there's another store that you would love to see, leave that in the comments down below, because these are so fun for me to put together and I love doing them. I love having like a goal set in mind of what I'm going after and then trying to recreate that. And sometimes it is a lot easier finding inspiration online versus taking all of your craft supplies and just trying to rack your brain seeing what you can come up with. So I really hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, leave me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! Bye!